This one's on you, Ainara.
Okay.
So this is your camera, but you can always still kind of talk to her.
But I can
Yeah.
just having the conversation, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just want to say something right to the camera. If you
I fucking
I think
Follow us in Instagram.
I know. Yeah.
there you go.
Exactly. Woohoo! I'm excited.
No, me too. Me too.
I know.
I have to self-control myself.
know.
The
You're like-
excitement. Yeah.
Not too excited.
Not too excited. Just speak in a regular flow.
Okay. So I'm so excited today because one of my really, really good friends, Ainara from MuXu, is here, and we're going to talk about all kinds of really cool stuff. Her journey is really, really inspiring to me. So I want you guys to be inspired by her too. She's an awesome person you guys all should know about. So here she is, Ainara from MuXu. Hello!
That is a very good intro.
Yeah. Woo, 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 woo. No, I'm seriously, I'm so excited that we get to sit down, and I know we've been trying to go back and forth with like setting up like a coffee date and catching up and all that kind of stuff. And
So I know that we are super busy, and this is like our coffee moment.
Where's the coffee?
With all these devices, but our coffee moment.
Exactly. And so I'm really excited to have you here because, like I said, I feel like your story is really, really inspirational, and the way that we met was awesome. And I just want people to get to know you a little bit more because what you did takes a lot of like courage, and you did it. And so that's one of the things where it's like, I just feel like that to me is like one of the most like courageous things someone could do. And so I want people to know more about it.
Yeah. You know, because you know me well,
Yeah.
since we have been having these conversations before about businesses and growing, that for me is a little bit complicated to integrate how has been my life
Yeah.
till MuXu, to integrate it with what happened after MuXu. So this is a practice also to me
Yeah.
to share that. So I'm going to try to do my best. So you know that I'm from Spain, so I studied, well, I have been always focusing to try to be a psychologist since always, because I knew that that was like my passion.
Yeah.
No? So I studied, even when I was working in another kind of different kind of jobs to get my studies and my PhD and all my stuff that happened after, always was having in mind to be a psychologist. So I studied psychology, I become a neuropsychologist. I was working in a hospital in the neurosurgery department. I got the PhD, and we decided that, and also this like entrepreneur spirit, I also have had. So I also opened with another two colleagues private practice there. So everything was going well, but we decided to go back here to come here for first time to get more in deep into research, because in San Diego there is a lot of research opportunities.
Wow.
So yes, we come here, and everything is very hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I got to have position as psychologist. At the beginning in research with the UCSD, and after with mental health, people with mental health problems, and also with an accompanying minors. I was deployed to Texas, so a lot of experiences, very intense, and super grateful for all the people that I met in the way, with all the experiences and all that I was living, the hardest moment, and also the healing moments for others, or the change moments for others. But what happened is that in some point I started to feel like drained, because I'm very passionate. So I'm dedicated, and I'm all for what I'm doing in that moment. So I started to feel this really burned out, and I was there for the people that was under my care, but when I came back home, I was started to feel like drained, like super tired. So I had the responsibility to be for the people to 100%. I don't have the luxury to be just 50% for them. So I had to be the 100%.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to risk to that something could happen or not to be a good professional because I was starting to feel this drain, to feel this emptiness. So at the same time that I was working, because it has been a process, this is not something that happened from one day to another. So it has been a process also for myself, because my identity has been to be a psychologist. So now I had to find something new.
Yeah.
So that is when it started. And again, I know that all these experiences are with me. I'm super grateful and are always being with me. And one part of me is also always going to continue to be what I has been doing and how I has been making for all these years. But just because I was looking different kind of opportunities to know what I gonna do next, at the same time that I was working, so I found the San Diego Continuing Education sewing classes, as you know.
Yeah.
So I started to take the classes, and I had the lucky one that I found a new passion. So I was switching from doing this all intellectual, mental, emotional work to do something with my hands, to create something from nothing, just a scrap of fabrics or a scrap of material, and start to create things. So that opened to me like a new way that I never thought about that before. So during this time, I also do other classes. And who was there during the sewing business class? Claudia! So you came, I remember perfect. I remember like it was yesterday, because it was already 2021.
Yeah.
You went there. Everything was still online.
Yeah.
So Zoom by Zoom.
Yeah.
To speak about your business, how to be an entrepreneur, how's you been pivoting your business, all this, and also your energy and your strength to go forward. So I identified with that, and I said, I'm gonna write her an email telling her we can meet.
Yeah.
So I wrote the email and you said yes, and everything started to change in that moment. And yes, that's when I started to came here to learn a lot about mainly and admire you about how to run a business, never stopping, like what is next, always continue trying to grow with all the hardness and all the difficulties. So I think that in that sense, you are the one to learn and to have you like a model to find the way to get your vision, your point, your mission. And if the opportunities are not there for you, to create them for yourself. So that lesson is value goal.
Yeah.
That we had to create our own opportunities to grow, no waiting for the others to come to give us the opportunity.
It's true. And it was like such a, I feel like that Zoom meeting, you know, it's like I think I got 2 emails, and so one was from another girl and then the other one was from you, and I was like, oh my god, that would be so much fun for you to come and like intern. You know, you already had experience and all that kind of stuff, but I really wanted, I think that it's important to not just see like the business for like, oh, you open up the shop, and then you sit here and you wait for people to come and buy stuff. And I think that a lot of people, they think that, you know, it's just about like you open the doors and people just come and they buy stuff, and it's not true. It's a lot of, you know, no sales a lot of the times, you know, and people not respecting the work, and you know, a lot of things like that could be like little bumps in the road. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, those bumps, they could add up, you know, where you're just kind of like, oh, this isn't really for me. But it's like being able to find like someone that you're like, that at least is in some kind of like similar field, that you could basically be like, hey, how can I do these things? How can I, if I'm having difficult with this kind of stuff, like what have you done? What are the things that you have done, you know? And so I think that when you were here, there was a lot of things that did happen, and you know, it was really cool to see the progress of like, this is happening, and like now we're doing this and now we're doing that. And so it was really nice to basically be able to like see that growth, and for you to be there and to really help with a lot of that kind of stuff too. Because I always tell everyone, it's not just me, you know, it's like there's so many other people that make this whole thing the reality of like what my dream is. They're the ones that help, you know. And it's not just me, it's like we have Manny, we have you, we have the interns from High Tech High, we have a whole community that like supports. And so there's so many people that like they play like these huge parts in like our stories and all that kind of stuff. But you play a really big part, because you know, a lot of people are scared, right? They're scared that they're gonna let someone in to their business, to, you know, the design process and all that kind of stuff, and they're scared that they're going to copy everything and then leave and do the same kind of thing. And I never felt that, you know, I never felt that. Like I think that we're meant to inspire each other, you know, where it's like you have your own way and your own style and your, you know. And so for me, like, it was always one of those things where it's like, look at how we make similar things, like zipper pouches, like hats, like all these kind of tote bags. We make similar things, but they're completely different. And we still manage to coexist in the same kind of market. Yeah. So it's like, there isn't that competition between us, because we're just kind of like, hey, you want to know how to make it easier and faster and quicker and this and that? Here you go. Here's the knowledge. Would you like some fabric? Here's a bunch of, you know, things like that, where it's like, I think it's important for us to do that, especially like within like women and, you know, building all that kind of stuff. And so for me, like, I was like, oh my God, like, this is great. And you've helped us so much in so many different ways. And your story of like, you know, you basically being a psychologist, you're a doctor. I am a doctor. You're a doctor. And then you're like, I want to sew. So for me, I'm like, that is such a courageous thing to basically do, to start all over and to start to be a beginner in something that you've never done before. People are so scared to start anything new, you know, and you did it. And so that, to me, I'm like, whoa, like, for someone to already have a degree, do all that kind of stuff, and really put their wants and their needs first, like that you did, you know, and that's such a beautiful thing. And I think that's why I'm so inspired by it.
Thank you for that, because it's true that I told you at the beginning, I have problems putting that in words, because also I have not criticism, but not understanding around me why or how I did that. Because it's true that is a lot of work behind to get that goal and to work in that field for so many years. But it's about to be responsible. I'm very responsible of that feeling about others. So it's to be responsible with others and also with ourselves and what we really need in it, because if we don't care of ourselves, we cannot care of others. So that was a big switch. But as you said, I have all that with me too. to learn from zero, because I was from zero, to apply some of my knowledge, but to be open to discover something absolutely new and to be passionate. Because I had that lucky. I'm passionate. When I'm passionate with something, this internal motor works to get it, to go through it. And one of the things that when you were speaking now, also, Claudia, the thing is that what is very different from other businesses is that we are makers and we have a business. So the two roles together, that is something that I think that the people get it when we explain it.
Exactly.
When we educate that part, that what implies, what means, why the final result, the products are different. It's because we are the makers too. So, but I don't think that in general the people get it yet.
Yes.
What this means and what that hard work behind it is. Because every time that you sell something, you have to make something.
Exactly.
It's not like you open a door and you have your connections with others and you bring the materials. No, we are doing it. So that extra, just for that extra, and what you transmit me that is possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Having in your mind all this that we were speaking now, but it's possible. Mm-hmm. So I'm here.
And you know what? Like the thing is that the reason why it's so inspirational, right? Like just your story. If you simplify it down like a lot, it's like you've already gone to school, you became a psychologist, you got your PhD, all that kind of stuff. You did all of that. You've gone through all the hardships of that. Mm-hmm. So it's like you did all of that. So it's like you could do anything, right? Because it's like you already did that. So it's like, and that is like, that's harder for a lot of people to do than what you're doing now, you know? And what you're doing now, it's like, it's hard in the sense where it's like having like a connection with like a customer, mm-hmm. like them understanding like, hey, you know what? This costs this much because like I made it, but it's also because of like this whole story that you've weaved around it, right? And so it's like trying to get people to understand and the consistency and how to have your business be sustainable and sustainable mm-hmm. in the kind of way where it's like it will sustain itself, you know? And so I feel like that's the hard part, you know, of this is that it's like, how do you keep your business like sustainable? How do you keep it going year after year after year? Because it's like we're getting older and our fucking shoulders hurt and my knees hurt. And so it's like, and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's like, how do we value ourselves? Because guess what? The reality of everything, right, is that there's still mental health involved. Mm-hmm. You know, we still like, even with psychology, all that kind of stuff, the burnout still could exist. Mm-hmm. But it's like, how do we take care of that so like that we're not feeling overwhelmed and, you know, unmotivated and all that kind of stuff? Because that does happen. Mm-hmm. You know, it does happen even in like this world where it's like, we have all this fun leather and it's like, ooh, what could we make with it? And it's like really cool. But it's like there's also that feeling of like, well, how do you take care of yourself in order for you to continue to want to, you know, sew and to create all these things, you know? So it's like they're both, you both at any kind of like, at any kind of space in life, you always have to make sure that your cup is full. Mm-hmm. So you could
to prevent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we know that can happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we don't want that happen again.
No.
So we have to really take care of ourselves, but also in an emotional, even in physical way, as you said, to prevent that. And also we can apply what we have learned around the years, because you also pivoted from one kind of business model to another, and you know what was working, what wasn't working.
Yeah.
And just because we want to be here and very long.
Yeah.
And to do a lot of things.
And I think that's one of the things too, right? Where it's like, being completely honest with yourself, being completely honest with yourself where you're like, does that work or does it not work? We're in a unique space, right? Where it's like, we do make everything, but we don't have to make a lot of it. And so the cool thing is that if we did want to make hats, we could basically be like, how are people going to respond to the hats? Make one or two and have it there and like display it and basically, talk about it, do all that kind of stuff, have a story where it's like, there's something behind it, all that. And if people respond to it really well, we get to make more. If people don't respond to it, we don't have to make more.
Exactly.
So it's like, it gives us that ability to basically test our markets, as opposed to like basically being like, we have to get all this inventory, and if it doesn't sell, we're kind of stuck with it and we have to discount all of it. And so we're in these unique positions of like, even with like creating the content for social media, when you're creating this product and you're like, this is the new product I'm working on, and if people, there isn't like that hype or they're not excited or anything like that, it's like you could start to kind of like measure it from there and basically be like, well, did I create a video or something that was going to engage people? Or these are all like little questions that you could always ask yourself, and so it is a more, it's a different kind of like stressful path, but I think that it is one of those things where it's like, it is really rewarding because we get to make it all.
And about this also, that what I discovered is that we can test a product that we can imagine, but the thing is that we can produce things that other imagines, that as that's happened to me with, for example, with the book sleeves, or with, now I'm doing a new product because someone asked me to do, if I was able to do it, and I said, with this skill that we know how to sew, we can make like tangible like things that doesn't exist, and we can to like invent the how to do it. So that is also something, that kind of ability, a skill that we got it, that I got it, is for me, it's like almost magic. Because it's to creating something that someone else is asking to do it, and after see that, for example, the book sleeve, that this is one of the examples that I have right now, but that worked very well. But was because someone asked me, do you know, to be open also to hear others. Maybe other kind of requests are not aligned with what we are doing, or whatever, but others, that to create something from the nothing, that is that is something that motivates me, like keeping me alive.
And I feel like one of the reasons why I love sewing is it's challenging. It's challenging. It teaches you patience. It's challenging in the way where it's like, if you sew this, like if you sew leather, it's gonna stretch, right? Because it's skin. So it's like, how do you sew leather without like the heavy foot of the sewing machine stretching it? How do you there's all these like little tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. So it's like knowing all that kind of stuff, right? And like really like the whole experimenting, because there's so much experimenting to like finally get to the place where you need to be. And I know that there's like certain moments, like when I'm working on a project, and I was doing a lot of prototyping. This was like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. I was doing a lot of prototyping, and people would ask me like, hey, would you be interested in creating a prototype for me? And I didn't really enjoy prototyping at the time because it was just a lot, and I didn't know how to value myself a little bit better. But I enjoyed it because it challenged me. It made me think outside of the box. It was like, so if you need this for X, Y, and Z, these are the fabrics that I could suggest for you to like build it out of. This is what I would suggest, this and that. And so because we have the knowledge, we know how certain fabrics are going to react to other fabrics and all that kind of stuff. And so it's that ability of like, whoa, like it's so challenging, and it's like you're engineering something. You're cutting something up from a one-dimensional form and turning it into a three-dimensional form. And the fact that people don't respect it as a skill, to me, is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard. You're sewing everything inside out. You know, you're sewing everything inside out, and so everything is made inside out. So it's like you really have to be able to see the product so many steps ahead, because if you can't see it so many steps ahead, you're not going to sew it right.
Yeah, just
You
the
know?
visual-spatial capacity
Yeah.
to do that.
So basically, we're so smart. We're geniuses.
Exactly. The people doesn't know some of them, but we are. No, but it's totally true that that capacity, and also, as you said, like bringing back the proud of being makers, because as you said before, that some people doesn't respect that that process, that capacity, because has been so devaluated along the years that now is like nothing, and that because of that is what gives space to the fast fashion, because the people had lost the connection between the product, the maker, the process. Because of that, that is why it's devaluated. But we are here to bring the proud of being makers.
Exactly.
That is one of the missions that I have, is that that the people feel like, yes, I sew, yes, I paint, yes, I create that pant, I create that kind of the proud, like in any other profession. What some professions has to have this proud, and not to be a maker.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm right there with you. I had an interview yesterday, and you know, the girl was like, how do you feel about like the fast fashion industry and like the environment? And I was like, oh my God, I'm about to get real pissed. And I was like, well, and it is one of those things where it's like we're not like old, you know, but we're not going to see what will happen with the environment if we don't change now, right? But the younger generation will. So it's really like being mindful of all these things, right? Because it's like, yes, the fast fashion industry, the fashion industry really created a very problematic issue, right? Where it's like, hey, let's send all of our stuff to be produced somewhere else for super cheap.
That we cannot see it, and because we cannot see it, doesn't exist the problem. But the problem is it, and now it's been seen.
Exactly. And the reality of it is most people haven't even seen it. They haven't even seen it, because it's like, if you knew what's happening, and not just if you've seen it, but if you know and you're aware, Shein, Fashion Nova, Forever 21, H&M, Zara, all these companies, they exploit women. That's what they do. They exploit women. They exploit women that don't have voices like how we do, right? And so it's like, here in this country, we get to basically be like, yay for women's rights. And we have women's rights, right? To
you improve it, but I know what you are telling.
Yeah. So it's like we are like, wow, you know, we have like all these, we have workers' rights, right? Where it's like, you have to take a break after a certain amount of time, and you have to take a lunch, and you have to, you know, and you can't be around dangerous conditions. They don't have any of that stuff, you know, and they don't have any of that stuff, and we exploit it. And we've exploited it for a really long time. And so what happened now is that it's like all these things, all this clothes, all this stuff is being mass produced, right? And so we have an excess of it now. And so it's like, what happens when they don't sell it? Or what happens when they have a lot of collections during the year, and all you're basically doing is like, you're like, I'm gonna go in there and get the newest thing. And it's like, you're going in there and it's not well made, the fabric isn't great or anything like that, and it's like, and all you're doing is like buying it and putting it in the thrift store, and buying it and putting it in the thrift store. And so it's creating like this cycle of like that, it's not never ending. And that industry, like I feel like there's been so many industries that have grown with the times, right? But it's like, how has the sewing industry grown with the time? It hasn't really grown.
It's like outgrown. It's
exactly.
like that devaluating. And again, one of the main problems probably is because it's a characteristic woman work.
Yes.
Right? Because what happened is all of them were women.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't want to open maybe that door right now, because the thing is that we know what is happening.
Yeah.
If you know what is happening, you have the access to know what is happening.
Exactly.
And otherwise, we can spread the word of what is happening, what we have to change that, and also what is a nonsense. For me, it's like a nonsense at all.
Yeah.
That we have been put into that circle, but we have now the power to take a step back, to have some perspective, and to decide by ourselves what we want to buy, where we can ask the conditions, what is the story behind the product. Because you know what is the story behind a creation, any creation, you are gonna know who did it, when did it, in what condition, how hard is or not is not to do it. So now we have that responsibility to take a step back and to ask ourselves and to ask the maker.
Yeah.
And to ask the person who are selling whatever thing is selling.
Exactly. And that's one of the really coolest parts about like the slow fashion movement, right? Where it's like, how can we show people that we're actually making it, you know? And so that's been one of the things where it's like, you know, because it's like, I think that like the sewing and like the production and everything has always been like an ugly side of the fashion industry, right? And so for me, like, it's always been like one of those really cool things where like, wow, how did they make that? And ooh, I want to see their studio and what does that look like? And I want to see piles and piles of fabric. And so there's been a lot of people that are in the slow fashion movement that they show their process. And I feel it's important to show the process because it humanizes the work. Right? Like, it's like you're there for who knows how long and you're doing it, and it's a human, and we're not machines, and we're not sewing this piece and then it's like, it's your turn now, you sew the other piece,
and you are like 10 hours per day doing just one straight line in this piece of the 2 garments.
Exactly.
Embroidery nights just got more fun. We're switching things up. Bring your own jacket, bring your own jeans, bring your own sweatshirt. Sew Loca embroidery nights here at the Sew Loca Sewing Studio. Pick it, peel it, stick it, stitch it, and style it with us. Embroidery nights just got more fun. You pick it, peel it, stick it, stitch it, and style it with us. Sew Loca embroidery nights 10, 13, 6 to 8. Get your tickets at sewloca.com. Pick it, peel it, stick it, stitch it, and style it with us here at the Sew Loca Sewing Studio. See you here. Get your tickets at sewloca.com.
I just want to say one thing because it's like, I think that like sometimes people get really confused with it. So mass production is basically like, it could be anywhere between like, depending on like how like big the assembly line is, right? Where it's like there's a bunch of people and each person has one job. Okay, so it's not skilled work. It's basically like, I could show you how to do it and there's guides on that machine. And so that machine, basically all you're doing is like you're feeding the thing in it and there's guides and it sews it perfectly. Okay, and it's basically like you sew this one thing. And the reason why like I know this, because my dad obviously had a denim factory and there was a lot of people that they were assembly lines, right? And so it's really interesting to see that, because when we create it, we cut it, we sew it, we clean it, we iron it, we take pictures of it, we put it on social media, we do all of it, like all of it. We source the materials, we put in a lot of like, we put in design effort. Like, you're like, hey, you could choose any fabric, but it's like, why did you decide to choose that one? And so there's so much of that human connection where it's like, hey, you know what? When I created this zipper pouch, this was my intention for it, and I made it utilizing all this kind of stuff. There's so much emotion going into it. It's not just okay, next. It's like there's actual emotion, there's thought into like, this color would look great with this kind of zipper, you know. And I think that that's where people get a little bit confused, that they think that there's one person that is making your clothes, that is just that one person that makes everything, and that's not.
No, that's not other part that we had to clarify, because it's change everything.
Exactly. Because it's like, that's where we have the skill to basically to look at a pattern, right? Because it's like, you could look at a pattern and you could basically be like, that's a sleeve, that's a collar, that's a this, that's a that, and like, you could build something like basic, like a t-shirt, you know, like you could basically be like, oh, pants, okay, they connect from here to there. But someone that is mass production, they don't know how to build that. They're just being told, okay, you sew this thing to this thing, and then that's it. And so for us, it's like, it's a different level of like, you are understanding that you're building the whole entire thing. So it's like an extreme skill level, because we're not machines.
Exactly. And we are not being treating ourselves as machines.
Exactly. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like sewing's like such a beautiful thing, you know. It's a beautiful thing. It gives us purpose. And like, you know, you're like, wow, when you walk away, you're like, I like made that. It's like so cool, like I made that. And like, there is that proud moment of like, yeah, I made that, you know. And you're so proud of yourself for creating something that most people can't do.
Yeah. And also when the people give you the feedback, the something like, oh, you have also every fabric, because we rescue the fabric.
Yeah,
So we don't have, this is the other challenge. Maybe I really like, I don't know, prints of shrimps.
Yeah. Shrimps?
Yeah, why not? I really like shrimps.
Shrimps are cute.
Exactly. So
And delicious.
that I like the print of the shrimps. So maybe I can go to a store and buy it, but we have to utilize what we have, because we rescue the fabric. So even though when we rescue the fabric, that could be like a chaos, you have your own style that is recognizable. And when the people tell me like, I don't know what is that, but it's like everything is like in the same kind of vibe, the same kind of aesthetic, when it's just a pile of fabric that we try to make something different. So that kind of that identity that we are giving to the products, that is another proud moment.
Yeah, are you kidding? Yeah. And like the identity, right, within like the products of like, yes, you're so right, everything's recycled, right? So it's like recycled fabrics, dead stock, all that kind of stuff. And that is a beautiful challenge, because guess what? We don't have to go out and basically tell a company, hey, print out a bunch of this stuff. And then it's like, you're basically now having all this fabric that's like completely printed, and it's like, that also does something, right? And so it's like, for us, it's like, we're in a cool place where we're like, well, we're very limited with this fabric. What are we going to do with it? You know? And it really allows for us to like put intention into the products, you know, which is nice, because it's like, we're not just, you know, producing because it's like we want to produce. It's like, we're producing because we're seeing needs, right? Like, everything is out of a need. And so it's like, what do we need? What would we like to basically like fill? What void would we like to fill? You know? And I think that makes it easier to basically design, because then you're like, ooh, what have I been needing recently or wanting, or, you know, and it usually falls within that need.
Yeah, exactly. Is that also to give the group of people that are in need of what we are creating, and they are not going to find in other places or other mass productions, brands, is to find that voice. And I'm so happy with the person who is buying things from MuXu. Identify and feel that is like fulfill the need to be something like is ethical made, well made with a specific aesthetic, that they are proud to wear it. It's like we are giving the people the joy again, to recover the joy to wear and to have garments that they like it, because they choose the garment. It's not like they are the pressure from outside. This season is gonna be this color and this kind of whatever. No, they are choosing it. They're like being more intentional, and these people exist. The people that wants to enjoy again of fashion, the clothing.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you know, it's when you're saying that, I'm, you know, like, again, the industry, like, what did the industry like create, right? And the industry creates trends, right? And so the industry creates like these trends, and people are like, oh, what's trending right now? How can I look like I'm cool? I don't know why people trend, I don't know, but you know, how could you get on that? And so for me, like, it's always been one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's nice to have like some kind of like guide of like, oh, this is like hip right now, but it's also like, as a human, like, you should wear whatever the hell you want to wear anytime. And not just because like the other day I was wearing like white pants, and I think it was like one of those things where it's like, you can't wear white pants after Labor Day.
And someone told me that.
And I was like,
something here. And I was like, what? You told me? Yeah, it was some years ago. I didn't know that. Even I didn't know that.
And I was like, I get to wear whatever I want. It's hot, you know? But it is one of those things where it's like, because yesterday I was like thinking, you know, and I, you know, like, I was in like the zone of like, oh, today I'm going to work on like this project, and I want to create like this thing, and I have like this vision, and I'm very inspired to just get in the zone. And it's very difficult to get in the zone, you know? And so I was kind of thinking about like, I don't know why I was thinking about this, but I was like, what kind of little lady would I want to be? You know, like, what kind of lady would I want to be? And I was like, I want to wear whatever the fuck I want to wear all the time. Like, just whatever I want to wear, without someone basically being like, oh, that's X, Y, and Z. You know, I don't want to be enslaved by a trend, you know, where it's like, oh, well, right now florals are not in, you know, or florals are, you know, and I love florals. And so for me, like, I love florals. I love, you know, all the like really like outdated stuff. I love that stuff because it probably has like a very nostalgic memory for me, like, you know, of being like a kid or something, but it has a nostalgic feeling. But I want to just wear whatever the hell I want to wear without someone basically being like, oh, that's interesting. And, you know, and I feel like when you do buy something that's like someone has made and how someone has put in time and energy and effort, you're breaking that cycle of what is trending, you know, like this algorithm of like, who's telling us that these things are popular, and who's telling us and who's feeding us that kind of stuff. And so it's like, we get to change all that. We get to basically be like, this is what I like to wear. And guess what? When you're the most comfortable, you look so good, and you have that confidence of walking a certain way because you're comfortable. But if you're uncomfortable, it's gonna everyone's gonna be able to see it. Yeah.
And also giving back like it's a little bit of freedom, right?
Yeah.
To be the liberation that I'm gonna, because the worst is when they tell you, okay, flowers was last year.
Exactly. Or this color was so
outdated.
Yeah.
It was what? So give me no. I'm gonna take the freedom to wear whatever I want. So that's it. And ask yourself, why are you thinking it that way? And why are you thinking it that way?
Exactly. And like these, like, and I think that that's like, you know, where the industry is kind of like a little weird, right? Because it's like, oh, this pattern is outdated. And so then guess what? Then you have all these fabrics that are like, well, they're outdated, so we can't, like, no one wants to buy them because they're dead stock, because they're outdated and they're not trending anymore. So now we have an excess of fabric that, like, what ends up happening to, like, fabric if we don't buy it and make something out of it? It just, we end up putting it in a landfill. It sits there for a really long time, and if it's not a natural fiber, it takes a really long time for it to, like, actually, like, you know, like break down, you know? And so the cool thing is that if we don't have these trends or these things of, like, you know, oh, flowers are so last year, or this is so last year, it's like we're able to continue to create with these things, you know? And I understand that there has to be, like, some kind of, like, formula to where it's like, because it's like, this is, you know, you need to give people, like, this year, this is, like, what's, but it's like, I just don't understand how that helps us as people, you know?
And the part understanding that you are really, they got the goal that was to be you part of their business.
Yeah.
So if you break that, you are part of your own business. You are not part of the business who is telling you what you have to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Plus, it's like, who wants to be told, like, oh, now it's spring, so you can't wear this color? And it's like,
Yeah.
no one wants to live in a world like that, you know? It's like everyone wants to basically be like, hey, I like wearing this because it makes me feel happy.
Or at least that is the people that understand us.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this group of people is the one that are receiving this message, and they are feeling good and free and enjoying their clothing.
Exactly. And I think that that's, like, one of the most important things, right? It's like for people to feel good about their decision to buy slow, you know, like slow fashion, like for them to basically be like, wow, it's not only made by, like, someone and, like, you know, they took the time and all that kind of stuff, but it's like there's a whole story behind it. And you do feel proud where you're like, yeah, my friend made it and they do all this really cool stuff, and, you know, and there is that pride of, like, this is a unique piece. No one's gonna have this piece but you. And there is that feeling where it's like we all want to be heard and we all want to be validated as individuals, not like as a mass, you know? And I think that that's where it's like, if you've never bought anything that was one of one, you should try it. You should try it. You should try it, you know? And it doesn't, and so it's like, it doesn't have to be like an expensive thing. It could just, you know, but it's like, just know that product, there's no other one like it. Yeah. And you get to have it. And you get to basically be like, wow, this was, like, made for you. Even if it wasn't, like, with the intention of, like, this is for Maria, it's still made for you, you know, in the way where it's like, hey, it's, no one else has it. You know, and I think that that's so beautiful that it's like, out of all these people that are here in this world, you have an item that is, you only have, you know? So it's like, I think that that's, like, an awesome thing, you know? But it's, we're getting into, like, this, all the craziness of this damn freaking industry, but it's like, I really want more people to know what you do and your company does. Yeah. Tell me about it. Because people are probably like, what?
But because we are in this kind of conversation that we have had, this is the thing that I really like speaking with you, because we can speak about this in deep, and I cannot do that with, like, everybody.
No, yeah.
Like, we are gonna have a coffee and we are gonna speak about other things, not these things. So that is why I always enjoy so much.
Yeah.
So yes, we do. We rescue the fabric, as you know, and we have been speaking about that. And we create also one-of-a-kind now clothing that we are printing, because I do watercolors. So now we are printing with, I got a grant with this direct to garment printer.
Yeah.
So I'm printing also the designs in the fabric, like in this one that I have here. Because I think that merging because sewing is an art, and it's no doubt about that, at least the way that we are doing the sewing. So merging the sewing art with the painting art, I think it's also something unique that I want to offer and spread in the world.
Yeah.
So we are doing this right now, and also I have this in mind, in the back of my mind, to do this important mission, to really share with others about why we have to change the narrative about the sewing, and how we had to impact into the world to change the fast fashion for the slow fashion. That the slow fashion has to be one of our only alternative is possible. So that also is in mind, and yes, I'm trying to do all these things through social media, through our newsletter, that we are always touching points about what is new for MuXu, but also sustainable tips, or we share other businesses that are also in the community trying to be more sustainable. So all these kind of things. And speaking about the community, something that you said before that is super important is that, as you said at the beginning of the conversation, that the community, sometimes we feel that maybe we can be copied. And I have never had, this is something that I want to tell you too, that we never had this kind of feeling, because we know that everyone is different.
Yeah.
So even doing the same kind of process, the result is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important, and also something that you are doing to support each other in the community. Because when you say support small businesses, it looks like you are like helping them, like giving something, but it's not just for them, it's for all the community.
Exactly.
So something that I learned doing one of the newsletters, because always I trying to find new information, is the multiplier effect. So when you buy something in the community, something here in Soloka or whatever other MuXu, you are giving the possibility that that person probably is going to hire someone in the community. And that person that is hiring someone in the community, that person probably is going to pay the student loans. And at the end, it's a circle. That is so important to keep it like local, to know where you are paying for, because at the end, even if you don't think about in that way, it's going to return to you.
Exactly.
So that is another thing that I always try to express or to share with others, because I truly believe that.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I'm right there with you, where it's like, how are we reinvesting in our communities?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how are we doing that? Like, what are we taking the time to do? Like, how are we, like, enriching our communities? And it doesn't have to be like something that we're doing where we're like, oh, you have to do this. And like, when you're supporting a business, right? Like, everyone thinks like supporting a business means you have to buy something from them, and you don't have to buy something from them. You could share their stories, you could share what they do, you could talk about them, with your friends, all that kind of stuff. You could recommend that business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, even things like that, where it's like, we all understand that sometimes we don't have the ability to basically be like, here's and money for an exchange for like a good. We understand that sometimes that's not possible, but it's like being able to basically be like, hey, how can I support that business? Because there is a lot of great businesses that are out there that do a lot of really cool stuff, that are advocating for so many cool things, but it's like, in order for us to keep those businesses alive, it's like we do have to support them in some kind of way, you know. And I've seen it like too often where it's like we're like, wow, that business is so cool, and then it's like the business goes out of business because, you know, we're not sustaining these kind of businesses that we really enjoy and that we really love. And so it's like, I feel like you're right with like that effect where it's like, hey, you know what, when you are supporting this business, like, what do you really like supporting about them? You know, like, what do you like about them? What do you want to like see, you know? And so it's a really good kind of like way of like thinking about like where your money is going, because it's like we could put it into something else and you could be like, well, this is where my money's going, and you could, but it's like, wouldn't you want to see like these things grow? Because like I said, it's like a business isn't just the person that runs it. It's like, look at like how invested some of these businesses are into like their communities and into like what they do, you know, to enrich other people's lives, to do, you know, to do all that kind of stuff. So it's like, those are like things to like really like think about, you know, because it's like, yes, like we all want to have like really successful businesses where we're like, yeah, you know, I just want to be able to pay my bills, put my daughter through college, live a comfortable life. That's all I want. Nothing too crazy, you know. But it's like, how do we get there? You know, it's like, how do you get there to where you're like, okay, cool, you know? And so it's like, and I feel like we're in like that forefront, you know, of like, this is a new thing. Like, there isn't people that do this where they're like, you know, where we could see it as like, oh, we could follow that path, and these are like all things that will show you like, and these are all proven things that you could do as that kind of industry that will lead you into like a good direction. We don't have that yet. It's so new. And so we're basically also doing like trial and error and basically being like, we'll see what works, you know. And so which is good, but it's like, it's also nice to have this community where we're like, hey, as like slow fashion, it's like we're only stronger together. So it's like, if there's more of us,
So true.
you know, if there's more of us that are doing similar things, like, how do we grow together? Because it's like, I feel like there is a lot of like individualism where you're like, oh, I just want to do this by myself, and that's great. But there is a lot of people that they're also wanting to be a part of something where they're like, hey, like, you have a community where it's like, I know a lot of the times like when we're going through something difficult, we could lean on each other and we could basically be like, hey, what's something that you could try? Hey, how could this, how could I make this work? And so it's like, it's really about like, you know, leaning on your community to strengthen what we do, because we don't have that yet. So it's like, if we want to create a whole movement, it's like we all have to get together and work towards that, and basically value each other in like what we do.
And pivoting and trying, and as you said, and also diversifying what we are doing. Is like you are speaking in front of a conference for something, and you are sewing here, and you are doing this other event. We really need to do that. We really need to diversify to try to get more people to try what is gonna work, what is not gonna work, and we are gonna doing that path.
Exactly.
Creating the path
Exactly.
while walking.
Exactly. While we're sewing.
Something while sewing.
Well, so it's like, yeah, but it's a fun thing, and I love it. I've never loved anything this much like sewing, you know. It's just, it's a very beautiful thing, you know, that you get to, like, you have this love for it, you know, and you get to like really express yourself with it. And the beautiful thing is that people could see your vision, you know. When people could see your vision and they're like, wow, I get it, like, it's a very like satisfying feeling, you know, to like anyone that's creating anything with their hands. Like, you're putting your whole heart and emotion in front of someone, and you're like, please buy this. I cried a lot doing this, you know. Please buy it, you know. So it's like, there is like that feeling of like, wow, like someone made that, and like they made it, and it's very special, you know. It's it's a thing that you could use.
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's where it's like it's very it's also very special that that you could use it and you could put things in it, or you could wear it, or you could, you know, things like that. So it's like it becomes more of like a thing to wear proudly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking now in cooking, but it's also similar to cooking.
Yeah.
So the people who is cooking behind, all the thought that I behind, the people who is working the booth, all the thought that I behind. So, yeah, coming back to all the makers around, and yeah, I feel good.
Yeah.
Buying them. Yeah.
So if someone did want to look you up or do any of that kind of stuff, how could they find you?
Well, mainly we have our website at MuXuCreations.com, and over there we have our blog if you want to know more about different concepts of sustainability or sewing. Also, we have the newsletter that we encourage everybody to subscribe to the newsletter, because we are putting a lot of our personal, our more intimacy in that newsletter to share with others, and also to know about what is new, discounts, or something that are gonna be first for the people in the newsletter, because it's something like more a personal project.
Yes.
In some sense.
I love that.
Also, in social media, mainly in Instagram. We also have Facebook and Pinterest, but we are very focused on Instagram because it's more visual, and what we do is very visual.
Yeah.
We do some events. Like, for example, we are gonna do we have done already the collaboration with Sophie, the Positive Fish. So we are gonna launch our pants this Sunday.
Fun.
Yeah, in a Cento coffee shop. So yeah, we are trying always to do some events, because we need that the people know us, touch our produce, see the texture, how have been done. So we need to do events to be there. Before finishing, I was remembering, and it was something that for me has been open my eyes, or has been the live sewing that we did in the museum.
Yeah.
Claudia, that was, I wanted to tell you before everybody, that was something else.
Yeah.
That is the way. So it was, I don't know, for the people that don't know, but it was like the studio projected in one of the rooms.
Yes, at the Wonder Museum.
At the Wonder Museum, and just the environment, the feeling, what was there was something else. And I was sewing live there, so the people coming asking questions about sewing. We need to do more about that kind of things, live sewing, so the people can really approach and ask and enjoy the process.
I think that when we're here in the studio, and like, let's say it's a Saturday or Sunday, and there's a lot of people that come into the studio on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And for me, instead of just sitting there and basically being like, hi, you know, I like to sew.
Yeah.
And it is one of those things where it's like, it's mainly because I get like so awkward sometimes, where I'm like, oh my God, there's people in here. Like, how do you obviously say hello and all that kind of stuff, but it's like being able to be like, hi, and then you're doing something and they could watch.
That is a game changer.
They have a connection where they're like, oh shit. They start to look around and they're like, oh shit.
They start to look around in a different way.
Exactly. They're like, she makes everything here.
Yeah.
And then that's where you're like, I do. And they're like, whoa. And they pay attention more to the details around, you know? So it's like, I feel like always having like, I know I used to do markets even before I even had a sewing studio, and I would take my sewing machine there and I would sew, just because it was like one of those things where it's like just standing there feels so weird, because a lot of the times, sometimes markets,
it's just waiting.
It's just
for
waiting.
The people to arrive to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, if you have something to do where you're like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and you know, this and that, and you're creating as you're doing that, people are like, oh my God, this is really cool. So it's like, I think that those are elements to add to like a pop-up where people could be like, oh my God, this person isn't just you know, because it's like it's if someone's passing by like the table, they could be like, oh cool, like she bought these from a lady that is like in some other country and she's like reselling them. It's an easy assumption to make, you know, quick. And so it's like if someone sees a sewing machine, then they're like, oh damn, you know, and then so it changes like what they're thinking about the products, you know. So yeah, I think live sewing is great.
Yeah,
everyone should do it.
Right?
You know, we offer sewing lessons, but it is one of those things where it's like it just even doing little things like that, how it could change how someone is like looking at like the products, you know. So yeah, I'm glad you had a good experience with that.
So I just wanted to tell you that. But yes, that the people can find us in some events, markets, no much. The truth is that maybe a couple per month, and we don't do more than that. And the newsletter, the website, and social media.
Nice.
So we are there for everybody who wants to know more and who wants to be part of the solution.
Exactly. Hey, it was really nice having you.
Yeah, it was very nice to be here
and
to have our chit chat.
Awesome. I know. We should have had like some coffee or something, you know, but it's really nice. It's always really nice. And, you know, like I love seeing how much your business has grown too. So we're excited. We know that we're going into 2024. And so that means
new opportunities,
more opportunities, and a lot of great things happening. So we're excited. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Mic drop.
That was awesome. That was one of the best episodes. Come on, that was great. That was great. Coming up on the next episode of Skills Pay Bills, positive fee.
It traumatized
that
me.
moment. But how cool that you took this moment that was traumatizing and negative, but you were like, no, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna do things on my terms, and I'm gonna do something about this and make my own thing, you know?